So Mickey, I mean, obviously, so, 2010, 2011, did you experiment with the knuckleball when you were drafted and you were playing pro ball, or when did that kind of first come into play?
I was about 12 or 13 years old when I first started throwing it. Saw a special on Tim Wakefield on Fox Sports Net, and went out the next day, my like little league or Babe Ruth team, and just went and chucked it as hard as I could at my throwing partner, and it was good, and just kind of stuck with it. Last 10 to 15 throws every day, just ripping knuckleballs at guys, and it just kind of took off that way. And then it's so hard to throw it in games growing up because coaches and stuff are like, well, you're not really a knuckleball guy until like the last moment of your career. So trying to get coaches to buy in on it, it was kind of tough. And I was still a pretty good pitcher without it. So again, last resort, didn't really need it until you need it. You don't really know until kind of thing. So just kind of had it in my back pocket. And when I got to pro ball or when I got to college and pro ball, I always ask my coaches like, hey, what do you guys think of a knuckleball? Like, well, we don't really need it right now. So like, okay. And like I said, just kind of held on to it. And when I got released by the Rays in 2011, it was just kind of like, I'm an average right-handed pitcher, 2 decent years at lower level minor leagues, and like, college senior draft, like who's really going to be looking for a guy who's throwing 90 miles an hour as a 5'8" right-handed pitcher, So I just was like, well, maybe this is the opportunity I take to throw the knuckleball and do something different that isn't around very often. And at the same time, that was happening, R.A. Dickey was taking off and starting to throw really well. So I thought that might be an opportunity where it's like, hey, maybe teams are going to look for this,
So I feel like if I was pitching and all of a sudden I wanted to throw the knuckleball, I feel like it takes balls. Like it's not like an easy thing to do. Like I would be nervous, I feel like, trying to go in there and throw a knuckleball. But it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like you were like ready to mix it in and ready to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is that you pretty much have to commit to it because it's not just like you can't really throw it as like a timid pitch because it's like I throw it 75 to 80 miles an hour, like that's a nice easy BP fastball if you don't throw it right. So just really committing to it and throwing it, and that's really the only thing that I try and tell guys when I have people reach out to me is that it's like you got to commit to it. You can't just like throw it in bullpens and then be like, okay, well maybe I'll throw it once or twice, or throw it with 2 strikes. It's like, no, that's not really how it works. And you gotta just throw it, and you either like want to be a knuckleball pitcher or you don't want to be one. Like it's really hard to be both because eventually they kind of like merge into if you with all the adrenaline and pitching, and it kind of merges into the same thing where if you throw like too many fastballs or too many sliders, then it changes your release point on your knuckleball, and your knuckleball has to be perfect every single time. Otherwise it's going to create rotation, which causes less movement and predictability, and which is not what you want. You want the unpredictability. So yeah, just the confidence behind it to throw it. And it is hard because you're used to throwing max effort, going up there throwing 90, 92 max effort. And then it's like, okay, I got to dial it back and throw 75. And if it doesn't do anything, it's just going to get hammered. So, you're just like, you get to the point where you're like, you throw 3 nasty ones in a row and get a strikeout. And then you throw one that's not very good, or it might even be good and they get lucky and hit it and they hit it for a home run. You're like, oh, well, here it is again. Here it is again. Here it is again. So you kind of just got to have that mentality where it's just like, forget about it and just let it rip,
Is it hard to throw for strikes?
That was my question.
It was at first, for sure. That was like the biggest obstacle, I would say, because when you don't throw it for strikes, then you're trying to aim it, which makes it even harder to throw for strikes. So, but I've gotten to the point now where you kind of know your release point or like little adjustments that you can make with your mechanics or with your release that get you that feel in the strike zone where, you know, like you kind of have like guys have that like kind of get me over curveball where it's like, I'm just going to flip this one in there and kind of steal a strike, where like I can kind of do that too with a knuckleball where I'm like, okay, I need a strike right here, 3-1, throw a strike, you know? So definitely takes a lot of time to find that release point, but yeah, it is very difficult, and obviously that's why you don't see very many guys do it.